Hello, dear learners. I welcome you to this last module of the MOOC course on population and society. In this course, we have discussed about the different aspects of demography ranging from basic concepts, theories, measures, population policies, socio-economic idiosyncrasies of Indian population, issues facing the Indian population, so on and so forth. The modules in this last week have been deliberating upon the issues pertaining to the different marginalized groups and sections of the Indian population. In this module, we shall be discussing about the issues of Divyangjan. The objectives of this module, that is module 40, are to explain the term disability, to discuss the census data on disability, to discuss the issues faced by Divyangajans in India. So, dear learners, let us begin with the term disability. We all often hear the term disability. In simple words, a physical, sensory, cognitive, or intellectual impairment that significantly restricts one or more main activities of daily living is referred to as disability. It can cover a broad spectrum of ailments including chronic illness, mental health issues, intellectual difficulties, vision or hearing impairments, and mobility issues. Disability is not solely defined by an individual's impairments but is also influenced by the social and environmental barriers that they encounter. These barriers can include inaccessible infrastructure, discriminatory attitudes, lack of accommodations, and limited opportunities for participation in society. As such, disability is often understood within a social context with emphasis placed on addressing the barriers faced by the disabled section of the population and promoting inclusion rather than solely focusing on individuals' medical condition or impairment. India has a large section of disabled population. Enumerating disability or collecting data and information on disability is not new. Rather, disability data was initially gathered during the first Indian census itself in the year 1870. It was initially known as infirmity up until 1930. In the 15th round, which ran from July 1959 to June 1960, the National Sample Survey Organization conducted the initial attempt to gather data on population to gather data on people with disabilities. But those were not typical features, nor did they have many extensive details. Between 1881 and 1931, the infirmity rate per 1 lakh people ranged from 228 to 369, or roughly around 0.23 to 0.37% of the total population. In 2001 and 2011 censuses, the Registrar General and Census Commissioner of India included the question about a person's disability status. Based on data from the 2011 census, let us now discuss about the composition or in details about the disabled population of the country. As per the census 2011 data, 2.68 crore population of India, that is 2.21% of India's total population, are classified as disabled. Of the population with disabilities, 44%, that is 1.18 crore, are female and 56%, that is 1.5 crore, are male. So male population the male section, they make up the 51% of the entire disabled population. So male disability is higher than the females. The majority of people with disabilities, that is 69%, lived in rural areas. Additionally, only the remaining 31% lived in the cities. The percentage of disabled population among the males and the females are 2.41 and 2.01% respectively. At all India level as well as desegregated by various groups, the proportion of the disability in the corresponding population, as we have already mentioned, is higher for males than females. During 2001 to 2011, there has been an increase in the number of disabled population or disabled person, and this is observed in the both urban as well as rural areas, and also in case of males and also female population. The share of disabled persons in total population has increased, and it has also increased for the both male and the female population. Between 2001 and 2011, the proportion of population with disabilities increased from 2.13% to 2.21%. In the rural areas, the percentage growth was 2.21%, while in the urban areas it has increased from 1.93% in 2001 to 2.17% in 2011. During this time, both males and females showed the same trend. From 2001 to 2011, the percentage decadal change in the population with disabilities was 22.4%, while percentage decadal change in the population as a whole was 17.7%. In India, 20% of people with disabilities are unable to move, 19% are visually impaired, and another 90% are hearing impaired. 8% are disabled in one or more than one ways. When we compare the male and female disability, we see that the census data shows that in case of impaired male population, 22% has disability related to movement, 18% has hearing or vision impairment, and 8% has several disabilities. Of the impaired female population, 20% have visual or hearing impairments, 80% have mobility impairments, and 8% have various disabilities. The age range between 10 to 19 years old accounts for the largest proportion of impaired people in our country, that is around 46.2 lakh population. 20% are having disability in hearing, followed by 18% with disability in vision, and 9% has multiple disabilities. So we see that census data shows that younger population consists of one of the perhaps the largest proportion of impaired people in our country. And when we talk about the elderly population, out of the total disabled population in our country, 21% are elderly or above 60 years of age. Now let us discuss the data on children with disability. 1.24% of the total children falling between 0 to 6 years of age are disabled. The percentage of male disabled children is 1.29%, and for females it is 1.19%. Just as the proportion of disabled male to total males is higher than the corresponding proportion for females at all India and at rural urban areas. The same pattern has been observed in the case of children falling between 0 to 6 years too. 23% of disabled children falling between 0 to 6 years are having disability in hearing, 30% has vision impairment, and 10% has mobility issues. 7% of disabled children have multiple disabilities. A similar pattern is observed in the case of both male and female disabled children. Again, just as the proportion of disabled population to total population for all ages is higher in the rural areas for both males and females, while for the children, the same is higher in the urban areas. So this is a contrast that we see, that in case of children, we have more disabled children in the urban areas when compared to the rural areas, and this is in contrast to the elder or adult population, where we see more disabled adult population in the rural areas. Dear learners, let us now discuss about the educational attainment of the disabled population. 61%, as per the census data 2011, 61% of the disabled children between aged 5 to 19 years are attending educational institution. Among the disabled children who are attending educational institution falling between 5 to 19 years of age, 57% are male. The rate of school attendance for disabled children of this particular age group is higher in the urban areas compared to the rural areas. And for the female disabled children falling between 5 to 19 years of age, 60% are attending educational institutions. The census 2011 data also states that of the total disabled population, nearly 55% are literates. Male literacy is higher with 62% compared to female literacy of 45%. Again, in literacy in the urban areas is higher with 67%, while in the rural areas it is 49%. Among the total disabled persons, 13% has metric, has complete HS or HSLC examinations but are not graduates. 5% have completed their graduation and above, and nearly 8.5% of the disabled literates are graduates. Now, while coming to the household data, the census 2011 shows that 8.3%, that is 207.8 lakhs of total households in the country are having disabled persons, of which 71% are in the rural areas. Among the disabled persons who are workers, 31% are. Now coming to work and livelihood of disabled people, the census 2011 states that there are 1.7 crore disabled non-workers, and among them 46% were males and 54% are females. Then there are among the total disabled persons who are workers, 31% were agricultural laborers. At all India level, 36% of the total disabled persons are workers. Among the male disabled person, 47% are working, and among the female disabled person, only 23% are working. In rural India, 25% of female disabled people are working, while in urban India, the number is comparatively very less, that is 16% are working. Among the total disabled non-workers, about 46% are in the age group of 15 to 59 years, 31% are in the age group of 0 to 14 years, and 23% are above 60 years. 1 in every two disabled non-workers is dependent on their respective families. Among the male disabled non-workers, 33% are students, while the same among the corresponding category of female is 22%. Among the disabled non-workers, for all types of disability, percentage of dependents are highest, followed by students and those performing household duties except for mental illness, where percent of disabled engaged in household duties is more than that of students. Among the disabled non-workers with disability in vision, 42% are dependents, 28% are students, and among those who have hearing impairment, 38.7% are dependents and 32.5% are students. The disabled population in India faces numerous issues and challenges, ranging from societal attitudes to lack of accessibility and inadequate policy frameworks. Let us now discuss some of the key challenges and issues faced by disabled individuals in India. The first issue is societal stigma and discrimination. Disabled individuals often encounter stigma, discrimination, and social exclusion in various types of life, in various aspects of life, including education, employment, and societal interactions. Negative attitudes and misconceptions about disabilities contribute to this discrimination. The other issue that is faced by the Divyangajan or the disabled population is limited access to education. Despite legislative efforts such as the Right to Education Act, many disabled children in India still face barriers to accessing quality education. Schools often lack appropriate infrastructure, trained teachers, and support services for disabled students. This results in lower enrollment, higher dropout rates, and limited educational opportunities for the Divyangajan. The third discrimination or constraint faced by or issue faced by the Divyangajan is the discrimination in terms of employment. Disabled individuals frequently encounter discrimination in the job market, which leads to higher levels of unemployment and underemployment. Employers may hesitate to hire disabled workers due to misconceptions about their abilities, concerns about accommodating their needs, and lack of accessible workplaces. The fourth issue faced by the Divyangajan or the disabled population is inadequate healthcare services. Access to healthcare services for the disabled individuals in India is often limited and fragmented. Many healthcare facilities lack specialized services, equipments, and trained personnel to address the unique healthcare needs of disabled people. Additionally, affordability and geographical barriers further hinder their access to healthcare services. The fifth issue that is faced by the disabled population or the Divyangajan is the physical accessibility challenges. Public infrastructure and transportation system in India often lack basic accessibility features such as ramps, elevators, designated parking spaces, so on and so forth, making it difficult for the disabled individuals to move around independently. This lack of accessibility affects their ability to access education, employment, healthcare, and other essential services. So, these accessibility challenges often, hinders the mobility of the Divyangajan. So, this is one of the serious issues faced by the disabled population in our country. Another issue or challenge faced by the Divyangajan is the lack of assistive technologies. The availability and affordability of assistive devices and technologies such as wheelchairs, hearing aids, and screen readers remain a major challenge for disabled individuals in India. Many disabled people are unable to find or afford these devices, which hinders their ability to fully participate in the day-to-day activities, to move around freely, to move around independently, so on and so forth. Another issue that is faced by or that hinders the empowerment process of disability or disabled population is that we have legal and policy gaps. While India has laws and policies which are aimed at protecting the rights of disabled individuals, such as the Right of Persons with Disability Act (RPWD), implementation and enforcement remains a major challenge. We have, the government or the state has taken initiatives. There are laws in place, there are policies in place, but when it comes to implementation or, enforcement of these policies, there is a huge lack. And this gap or this lack between policy intentions and its implementation at the grassroots, it leads to a lack of effective protection and support for disabled individuals. Another important issue faced by the disabled population in the country is poverty and marginalization. Disabled individuals in India are disproportionately affected by poverty and marginalization, facing multiple barriers to social and economic inclusion. poverty exacerbates other challenges such as limited access to education, healthcare, employment opportunities, so on and so forth, further perpetuating the cycle of exclusion and disadvantage. So, dear learners, from this we have learned about the different issues, challenges and constraints faced by the Divyangajan or the disabled population in our country. There is unemployment issue, there is poverty, there is inequality, discrimination, so on and so forth. And even though there are policies in place, even though we have government initiatives, schemes for this population to empower the disabled population, yet there is a far mile to go before we reach the goal. There is a lot more to do in this regard, and we have to so that these policies are implemented effectively at the grassroots. This has to be monitored, this needs to be examined, this needs to be seen, so that we can really work towards the empowerment of the disabled population of our country. So addressing these issues and challenges requires a comprehensive approach involving coordinated efforts from the government, civil society organizations, private sectors, and all other stakeholders, including the Divyangajan themselves. It involves implementing inclusive policies, investing in infrastructure and services, raising awareness, and promoting the rights and dignity of the Divyangajan. And we do hope in the coming times, with concerted efforts from all the stakeholders, India can work towards really empowering the disabled section of the population. With this, dear learners, we have come to the end of today's discussion. In this module, we have basically talked about the issues faced by disabled population of our country. We have discussed the Census 2011 data on different aspects of disability, that is total disabled population in the country, the male-female ratio, rural-urban differentiation, then at the educational attainment, then we have work and livelihood of the disabled population, so on and so forth. Finally, we have also discussed about the major constraints faced by the disabled section of the population. And we hope you have understood what has been conveyed in this module, and we also hope that from this entire course you have had a meaningful engagement with the videos and have been able to learn about the demographic composition of our country, the different theories of demography, the concepts of demography, so on and so forth. We hope we have had, you have found the course interesting and meaningful. So we thank you for enrolling in this course and watching the videos. Thank you so much.